3 weeks after Emeka's burial, the first strange death happened. It was during a heavy rain. The kind of rain that swallowed every sound and made the whole village feel buried underwater. Chief Daike's wife woke up around midnight because of screaming. Not outside, inside their bedroom. She sat up immediately. Her husband was standing near the corner of the room, staring at something she couldn't see. His whole body was shaking. Sweat covered him. "Who are you?" he shouted. Then, all at once, he stumbled backward as if someone had pushed him. His wife jumped out of bed. "Daike!" But he didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the empty corner. He was breathing so fast it looked like he could hardly catch his breath. With his shaking hand, he pointed into the darkness. "I said I'm sorry!" His wife froze. The room was empty. But Daike kept stepping backward as though someone was slowly walking toward him. Then, a loud slap echoed through the room. His head jerked hard to one side. His wife screamed. Another slap, then another. Daike fell to the ground without moving. His wife stared at him for a second, then her scream cut through the rain. By morning, the whole village of Umokiri had gathered outside his compound. No one could explain what had happened. Some people said it was poison. Others blamed witchcraft. But when they saw the marks on his face, fear spread through the crowd. 5 fresh finger marks were across both cheeks, as if invisible hands had beaten him before taking his life. That was when people began talking about the gods. Because in Umokiri, whenever death stopped making sense, people looked for answers beyond the living. 3 weeks earlier, the village had buried Emeka Nwosu. His death was still fresh in everyone's mind. Emeka wasn't a poor man. He wasn't rich either, but people respected him. He spoke boldly during village meetings. He gave generously during festivals. People saw him as a good man. But inside his own house, there was another Emeka. Only Ngozi knew that version of him. The man who came home angry for no reason. The man whose motorcycle made their daughter run and hide. The man who could turn a quiet evening into a night of fear. The man who made his wife say sorry for things she never did. Sometimes the neighbors heard shouting from their compound. Sometimes they heard Ngozi crying late at night, but no one stepped in. In Umokiri, people believed that problems between a husband and wife should stay inside the home, so everyone looked away, even when they knew something was wrong. Then one evening, while eating dinner, Emeka suddenly stopped breathing. He fell beside the table. There was no sickness, no warning. Before anyone could help, he was gone. At his burial, Ngozi hardly spoke. Some women felt sorry for her. Others whispered that people mourn in different ways. But after Chief Daike died exactly 3 weeks later, those whispers began to change. People remembered that Daike and Emeka were very close. They attended village meetings together, shared drinks after gatherings, and always stood up for each other whenever arguments started. In a village already filled with fear, 2 close friends dying within 3 weeks no longer felt ordinary. 2 nights after Chief Daike's death, the village elders gathered. When everyone had settled down, the oldest elder, Chief Okori, spoke. "This is no ordinary death." The room fell quiet. Then another elder said what everyone else was already thinking. "The gods are angry." No one replied. By the next morning, an emergency cleansing ritual was announced. Before sunset, the entire village gathered at the ancestral shrine. Goats were sacrificed. Palm oil was poured on the ground. The chief priest prayed for the gods to have mercy on the village. When the ritual ended, many people believed the nightmare was over. They were wrong. The village had barely begun to breathe again when another person died. This time, it was Pastor Gideon. Everyone respected him. He was soft-spoken, always carrying his Bible, always encouraging young couples to love and forgive each other. People often said he was one of the kindest men in Umokiri. But his wife rarely spoke in public. And whenever people asked if she was all right, she quickly smiled and said she was fine. No one asked again. Early the next morning, Pastor Gideon's body was found inside his sitting room. He was lying on the floor. His eyes were wide open. His face was frozen in fear. And once again, there were fresh finger marks across both cheeks. That was the moment the whole village realized something was terribly wrong. The cleansing ritual had changed nothing. The deaths had not stopped. As the days passed, Umokiri slowly became a different village. The market closed earlier than usual. Children no longer played outside in the evening. After sunset, the village paths became strangely quiet. People hurried home before dark. And once every door was locked, no one wanted to hear a knock. Rumors spread from one compound to another. Some said the gods were punishing the village for hidden sins. Others believed another sacrifice was needed. Everyone had an answer, but no one knew the truth. Then, another man died. His name was Obina. He was young, newly married, always smiling. He played football with the village youths. He never refused to help during community work. Everyone liked him. But his wife smiled less and less. Whenever someone asked if everything was all right at home, she answered only after looking at her husband. Most people noticed. No one said a word. Just before dawn, Obina's wife found him dead in their bedroom. The same finger marks, the same look of fear, the same mystery. By now, even those who doubted the story stopped looking for ordinary answers. The chief priest offered more sacrifices. Nothing changed. The deaths continued. Sleep disappeared from Umokiri. Every night, families prayed before going to bed. Parents kept their children close. No one felt safe anymore. Then one night, something happened that changed everything. A man named Ugo was beating his wife during an argument. The neighbors heard the shouting, just as they had many times before. At first, no one got involved. That was how things had always been. Then, the shouting changed. Ugo began to scream, not with anger, with fear. The neighbors rushed outside. From inside the house, they heard him crying out, "No, please!" Then, everything got quiet. The neighbors forced the door open. Obo was lying on the floor, dead. The same finger marks were on his face. But this time, someone claimed to have seen something. An old woman who lived nearby said she saw a dark shadow leaving the compound just before Ugo stopped screaming. That one story spread to Umokiri before the sun came up. From that day on, people stopped talking about poison. They stopped talking about ordinary death. Everyone believed something was haunting the village. 3 days later, the elders made a decision. If the answers could not be found inside Umokiri, they would go beyond it. Far beyond their land, deep inside an ancient forest, lived a feared chief priest named Eze Ochichiri. Kings were said to visit him in secret. Even other chief priests respected him. No one went to him unless something had happened that no one could explain. Early the next morning, 4 elders began the journey. The forest path was narrow, quiet. The deeper they walked, the heavier the air felt. Even the birds seemed far away. No one spoke. Hours later, they reached the shrine. It stood beneath giant trees. Red cloth hung from the branches. Animal skulls surrounded the entrance. Before any of the elders could speak, they saw him. Ezeochichiri was already standing outside, barefoot, thin, completely still. It was as if he had been waiting for them all along. His eyes looked old and cloudy. Yet, somehow, it felt like he could see everything. Before anyone could greet him, he spoke. "I have been expecting you." The elders looked at one another. Chief Okori stepped forward. He told him everything. Emeka's death, Chief Dyke, Pastor Gideon, Obinna, Ugo, the finger marks, the failed sacrifices, the shadow, and the fear that had taken over Umokiri. Ezeochichiri listened without saying a word. When Chief Okori finished, the old chief priest turned around and walked into the shrine alone. The elders waited outside. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. No one moved. At last, Ezeochichiri came back outside. The moment the elders looked at his face, they knew something was wrong. Even he looked troubled. Chief Okori spoke softly. "What did you see?" The old chief priest was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at the elders and said, "The dead man is not haunting your village. Emeka did not return because he hated Umokiri. He returned because after death, he finally saw the life he forced his wife to live. When he crossed over, he heard every cry he ignored. He felt every wound she hid because of him. And for the first time, he understood what he had done." The elders stood speechless. Then Ezeochichiri continued. "Now, whenever he sees another husband becoming the man he used to be, he cannot walk away. He sees himself, and he judges them before anyone else can." Another long silence followed. Chief Okori finally found his voice. "Can he be stopped?" Ezeochichiri slowly shook his head. "The living can hide from the law. They can hide from their neighbors. They can even hide behind respect. But they cannot hide from a man who has already faced the truth." He looked towards Umokiri. Then he spoke one last time. "The people of your village have spent years protecting cruel men with their silence. Now, their silence has created something they can no longer control." The 4 elders stood frozen. For the first time since the deaths began, they understood that the real curse had never been the gods. It had never been witchcraft. It had never been the shadow. It was every cry the village had chosen not to hear. And now, those cries had finally found a voice.